Okay, so if you do this now, if we want to use the graphical analysis 4, which is the new one. Actually, I thought it was crappy, but it turns out it's really pretty good. There's some things about it I actually like better now that I use it a little bit. I still kind of prefer graphical analysis 3, but this one's pretty good. So here's the first issue, is how do you, and some of you have already solved this, how do you open up data? So I know how I can send you, I have to have a sensor plugged in to be able to cast data to you. That's why we were having problems yesterday. As soon as I plugged it in, it works. I can do data sharing. But you don't really need me to do data sharing because I made the data available to you on Moodle. Here's what you have to do, though. If you want to choose a file, you want to choose the file that's the CSV file for data analysis 4, and you're going to choose the GA3 for graphical analysis 3. GA3 stands for graphical analysis 3. So I'll show you. So for example, if we go into, and it's not going to show up. Here's the other little tricky thing. Notice down here, like if I go into the file where it's supposed to be, nothing is showing up. It's because I'm searching for the wrong kind of file types. It's searching for file types AMBL, GA2, or SMBL. Well, none of those match my file types. I have to go down and choose CSV. Now I can see the files, right? And so if I click on number 1, look what it does. Okay, this is pretty good. It gives me all the data on one graph, which might be useful. There might be times when you actually want to do that. Typically, probably not. So how do we split that up then? Okay, so if you want to look at one thing at a time, all you have to do is go over and click on the y-axis box and choose, like let's say for example we want to look just at position. Then I would unhighlight the other two, and then I get the whole screen to look at position, which is pretty valuable. You want to go ahead and grab one of those? Feel free. You know the password, I think, don't you?
Yep.
Yep, you're good. Okay, so that's pretty handy, right? Because now I can see the whole, there's the whole screen devoted to that one graph. If I want to do something like, let's say, I want to take a portion of the curve and do an analysis. Let's say I want to do a quadratic fit on this, which is one of the things you're going to do on the lab. I can highlight that, go down to Graphical Tools, apply Curve Fit, and choose Quadratic, and look what it does. Now I can see the whole box conveniently. That's kind of nice, right? Because I've got the screen expanded. There it is. It shows me the curve that it's fitting. That's pretty cool, right? And so it's got lots of information there. You're going to probably have some questions about what some of this stuff means. That's all right. I mean, you can ask me that stuff as you're working through the labs. Remember that the root mean square average, you can sort of think about that as being the plus or minus values that are within reasonable, that would be reasonable based on your prediction, right? Okay, so thank you, sir. Okay, does that make sense? So now what? Now if I want to, let's say I want to line the graphs up and look at 3 of them at a time, then all you have to do is go up to this little icon up here and click like 3 graphs. Okay? Now if you go down and try to click on the y-axis first, you don't get any options. So I just figured this out. You have to go do set the x-axis first. So if I go down to x-axis, I'm going to do the latest times. So it's the times from the latest data set. I'll do that for both. And once I've done that, I can go over to the y-axis and pick whichever y variable I want to go with that input variable. So I'm going to pick velocity for this one, and I'm going to pick acceleration for that one. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay, now there's some other stuff you can do. Now you can deal with those individually. One thing that's a little bit less convenient is if you, whoops, hang on. If I go down, it's hard, you can't just manually type in a value down here like you can in Graphical Analysis 3. If I want to set the Y parameters very precisely, I have to go down to Graph Tools and Edit Graph Options. And then on there, see, look, I can pick very precisely what I want the bottom and top X and Y values to be, right? A lot of times they'll show up. Does this look familiar? Right? Remember seeing some data like that? Well, we don't really want the data points on there. We want lines. So if you ever end up with that, go down to Graph Options, Edit Graph Options, and choose Lines. Okay, now it's gonna do a fit, and it's gonna smoothly connect the dots. Okay, you can do. Okay, I think that's all you need to know for that one, right? Does that make sense? Okay, and if I want to limit the number of graphs on a page, once again, I just go up here and I click on whether I want one graph or two graphs, and I can always choose which graph I want by going over here and does that make sense? Selecting whichever y value I want to graph against t. Okay, the other thing that I can do that's kind of cool is I can go to the table also. There's all the data that came in from the sensor. You see that? That's all the data that came in for position, velocity, and acceleration as a data table. So you might, if you ever want that, there it is. You could do something in Excel with that if you wanted to at some point. I can do both at the same time by clicking Graph and Table. Gives me both. Yes, sir?
I don't remember the password.
Which one are you doing? Second test or first? Shoes.
Shoes?
Shoes.
Shoes.
Okay, what is this? I don't even know what that is. Let's see what that is. Oh, I don't know. Nothing. Okay, makes sense? Okay, so that's graphical analysis 4. Now, what about graphical analysis 3? That's the one that you can download at home. Graphical analysis 3, I think, is easier to use in many ways. Let's go ahead and open a new one. Okay, so if you open that one up, it's just going to go to something like this, right? So what we want to do here is we're going to open up the lab files that end in the file type GA3. So if I go in and click on one of those, now that ought to look pretty familiar. That's what I have in class, right? And these are the ones that are a little bit more complicated in a way, but you can do more stuff with them. Like, for example, I can even do stuff like this. Now, once I've got these on there, I could go up and auto-scale these right here. If I want to auto-scale the graphs, see what I'm saying? It'll auto-scale based on the range of values, so it spreads them out over the whole, as wide as possible. I think if I do something like this too, like if I were to go click that and go auto-scale, oh, never mind. Doesn't do that. Oh, well. Okay? But then you have access to all the same tools here, only there are these nice little buttons at the top you can use to do things like find statistics, find best fit lines, etc. Okay? So that's GA3. You can't do that one on the Chromebooks, but you can do it at home or at school. Make sense? You good?
Yes.
Okay? All right. Have at it. Tomorrow we test. Later this week we start new stuff.